Wait, you paid off all of it. My mother barely looked away from the framed student loan statement, sitting beside Lauren's graduation cake. All $186,000, she said, almost casually. Your sister can finally start her career without that hanging over her. I stared at the giant $*0 balance printed across the replica statement. 3 weeks earlier, Lauren and I had graduated from medical school together. Same ceremony, same proud parents in the audience, same years of exhausting rotations. And I still owed about $181,000. So, what about mine? Dad turned toward me, already looking irritated that I'd asked. Lauren needed the fresh start, he said. You've always been good at figuring things out. Then Mom touched my arm and smiled. She deserves it more, honey. For a second, nobody spoke. Then Dad lifted his champagne glass. Come on, Pamela, don't make tonight uncomfortable. I slowly put my own glass down. Because there was one thing my parents didn't know. I'd known about their plan for 3 months. And I hadn't spent those 3 months doing nothing. The photographer called everyone toward the decorated wall behind Lauren. Doctors read together, someone shouted. Lauren moved beside Mom, while Dad waved me over. Pamela, he said sharply, family picture. I stayed where I was. Lauren glanced at me, her smile disappearing for a moment. She looked uncomfortable, but she didn't say anything. That was our family dynamic in one picture. Whenever Lauren struggled, my parents rushed in. Whenever I struggled, they reminded me how capable I was. I'd worked through college, taken fewer handouts, stretched every dollar, and even helped Lauren when medical school expenses hit harder than she expected. Somehow, succeeding had become proof that I deserved less. Aunt Carol stepped closer to me and lowered her voice. Honey, did they pay yours off too? Mom's head snapped toward us. I could have protected her from the answer. I didn't. No, I said. I still owe around $181,000. Aunt Carol's expression changed. 2 cousins nearby stopped talking. Mom immediately raised her voice. Lauren, sweetheart, come stand beside the cake. Everyone wants pictures. The conversation shifted, but the room didn't quite recover. Dad leaned toward me. This is your sister's night. Smile and let her enjoy it. I looked across the room at Lauren's framed zero-balance statement, then at my parents accepting congratulations for being so generous. Mom caught me watching them. For the first time that evening, uncertainty crossed her face. She knew I wasn't reacting the way she expected. No argument. No tears. No demand for $181,000. What she didn't know was that 3 months earlier, I had discovered exactly what they planned to do. And from that day forward, I had quietly started changing something far more important than my student loan balance. So why had I walked into Lauren's party and allowed my parents to believe I knew absolutely nothing? 3 months earlier, I walked into my parents' house after one of the longest hospital rotations of my life. Dad was sitting at the dining table, surrounded by folders. Perfect timing, he said. Help me organize these before the refinancing appointment tomorrow. I dropped my bag and started sorting. Insurance, property taxes, mortgage statements. Then I saw a bank transfer authorization. Recipient, Lauren Reed. Under purpose, someone had written, Lauren, student loans. At first, I smiled. I assumed they were planning graduation help for both of us. The next morning, I found Mom alone in the kitchen. Are you and Dad helping us with our loans after graduation? Her hand stopped halfway to the coffee pot. What makes you ask that? That hesitation told me more than her words. I saw the transfer paperwork. Mom exhaled. Pamela, that wasn't something you were supposed to see. For Lauren. She nodded. How much? All of it. I stared at her. Why not split the money between us? Dad walked in before she answered. We've already discussed this. apparently without me. He pulled out a chair. Lauren is more sensitive about money. That debt has been overwhelming her. You're different. Different how? You're strong. You always figure things out. There it was again. The compliment that always came right before I received less. I kept my voice level. I have student loans too, and I've been sending you $1,800 every month since your business slowed down. Mom's expression hardened. You offered to help us. For almost 4 years. Family shouldn't keep score, Pamela. I looked from her to Dad. My money was family money when they needed it. Their money suddenly had nothing to do with fairness when I needed help. I could feel an argument building, but something stopped me. Instead, I asked one question. After you pay off Lauren's loans, are you still expecting my $1,800 every month? Dad looked genuinely confused that I would even ask. Of course. He leaned back. That has nothing to do with this. That sentence settled everything. I picked up my bag. Mom followed me toward the door. Pamela, don't turn this into some competition with your sister. I'm not. And for once, I meant it. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and opened my banking app. I pulled up every transfer I had made to my parents. 1 month. 12 months. 24. 36. 46 monthly payments. Then I contacted a financial advisor. For years, I had been trying to prove I deserved the same consideration Lauren received automatically. I was finished doing that. I opened the recurring payment settings attached to my parents' account. Next transfer, $1,800. My finger hovered over the screen. Then I pressed Cancel automatic transfer. Back at Lauren's debt-free celebration, Dad tapped a spoon against his champagne glass. The room quieted. He wrapped an arm around Lauren and smiled at everyone gathered around the decorated table. As parents, we have one responsibility above everything else, to give our children every possible advantage. My eyes went straight to the framed $0 balance asterisk beside him. A few relatives looked at me. Dad continued. Lauren worked incredibly hard to become a doctor. Deanne and I decided she deserved to begin this chapter without debt. Everyone applauded. I didn't. Aunt Carol finally asked the question hanging over the room. So did you do the same thing for Pamela? Mom jumped in immediately. Pamela didn't really need that kind of help. I looked at her. Nobody had asked whether I needed help. They had asked whether I received it. So I answered. I was never offered it. The room went quiet. Dad's smile disappeared. Pamela, can I speak with you? He led me toward the hallway and lowered his voice. What are you doing? Answering Aunt Carol. You know exactly what you're doing. You're embarrassing your mother and me at your sister's celebration. I told the truth. Dad glanced toward the dining room. This isn't the place. Then maybe you shouldn't have turned paying Lauren's loans into a public event. His jaw tightened. You want to talk about money? Fine. You stopped sending your monthly payments without even warning us. There it was. The subject he had avoided discussing with me for months. Our finances have been tight because of that, Pamela. I stared at him. You committed $186,000 to Lauren without warning me. That is completely different. How? Those payments were helping your family. They were household responsibilities. I almost laughed. My student debt isn't a responsibility. That's yours. And your mortgage is mine. Dad opened his mouth, but someone behind us interrupted. What payments? Lauren. She stood several feet away. Mom hurried over. Lauren, sweetheart, go enjoy your party. Lauren didn't move. She looked directly at Dad. What payments is he talking about? Nothing important, Mom said. Pamela helped us occasionally when your father's business slowed down. Occasionally. Lauren looked at me. Dad stepped between us. We are not discussing private family finances in front of everyone. I walked past him and returned to the dining room. That was the moment the balance of power changed. I wasn't arguing. I wasn't defending myself. And I wasn't obeying him. Behind me, Lauren questioned Mom again. If you needed Pamela's money, how did you have $186,000 to pay my loans? Lauren, please. No, I want to understand. Mom tried to pull her aside, but Lauren followed me instead. She caught up near the cake table and lowered her voice. Her face no longer looked celebratory. Pam. I turned. She glanced toward our parents, then back at me. How long have you been paying Mom and Dad's bills? Not here, I told Lauren quietly. We can talk after everyone leaves. She stared at me. How long, Pamela? Lauren, I promise I'll explain. I still wasn't interested in turning her celebration into a family trial. Then Mom made that decision for me. Aunt Carol had apparently asked another question, because Mom suddenly spoke loudly enough for half the room to hear. Pamela is upset because she's jealous. That's all this is. I turned around. Mom continued before I could answer. She's always been competitive with Lauren, and tonight should be about celebrating her sister. That changed everything. I picked up my purse. Dad immediately stepped forward. Where are you going? To my car. I walked outside. In the passenger seat was a slim folder I had planned to give my parents privately after dinner. When I returned, Dad saw it in my hand. His expression changed. Pamela, don't. Lauren stepped between us. No, I want to see it. I placed the folder on the table and opened it. The first pages were bank records. I pointed to the recurring transactions. 46 monthly transfers. Lauren leaned closer. $1,800. Every month. She started calculating silently. I turned to the summary page. $82,800. Lauren looked at Mom. You told me Pamela helped occasionally. Nobody answered. And that doesn't include the property tax payment, I continued, or the home repairs I covered when Dad's business was struggling. Lauren pushed the framed $0 balance farther away from herself. But you kept telling me you were financially comfortable. Mom crossed her arms. We were managing. With Pamela's money. Dad stepped forward. That is enough. This party is over. No, Lauren said. Dad stared at her. Lauren pointed at the folder. She gets to finish. So I did. When I found out 3 months ago that they were paying your loans, I met with a financial advisor. I showed her another document. I stopped the $1,800 transfer and started redirecting that money toward my own future. Dad's attention suddenly shifted to a page underneath the bank statements. A hospital logo was printed across the top. He reached toward it. What is that? I moved the document back toward myself. His face tightened. Pamela, are you leaving your current residency track? Before I could answer, my phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was the hospital administrator. Everyone watched as I answered. Hello. The administrator confirmed the final relocation arrangements. I looked directly at my parents. Yes, I said. I'll be there next month. I ended the call and placed my phone beside the folder. Dad was still staring at the hospital letter. You accepted another position. Yes. Out of state. Yes. Mom stepped closer. When were you planning to tell us? Tonight. I pulled the employment contract from the folder. 3 months earlier, after discovering what they planned to do for Lauren, I had finally understood that arguing about fairness wasn't going to change anything. So I changed the things I controlled. I refinanced my student loans, I said. I negotiated this position with better compensation and a signing bonus. I already have a repayment plan. Lauren looked at me. For the whole $181,000. It'll take time, but yes. Then I looked at my parents. And the $1,800 monthly payments to you are permanently finished. Mom's face changed. Permanently? Yes. Dad folded his arms. You're making a major family decision because we gave your sister a graduation gift. No, I made it because of what that gift showed me. I turned the bank summary toward Lauren. 46 transfers, $82,800. Then I pointed to the other records. That doesn't include the property taxes I covered or the repairs on the house. Lauren stared at the numbers. You never told me any of this. I thought you knew. She looked at Mom. Did you? Mom didn't answer. Mom, we didn't think it was necessary to discuss our finances with you. Lauren glanced at the framed student loan statement. So you let me believe you could comfortably give me $186,000 while Pamela was helping pay your bills. Dad interrupted. Your sister volunteered to help us. And you accepted it, Lauren said, for almost 4 years. Dad looked toward me. You were earning money. You were responsible. I nodded. That's exactly the problem. He frowned. When I'm responsible, you use it as a reason to take from me. When Lauren needs something, you use her needs as a reason to give to her. Mom shook her head. You're twisting this. No, Mom, I'm finally separating the two. Lauren walked to the display table. She picked up the framed replica of her zero balance statement and removed it from the stand. The room went silent. Why did you let me celebrate this like nobody else paid a price for it? She asked. Mom reached for her. Lauren, this is not your fault. I know, but you kept us from knowing what the other one was being told. Lauren looked at me. I didn't know, Pam. I know. And I did. Lauren hadn't made the decision. My parents had. I don't want your money, I told her. I'm not asking you to repay anything. Your loans are gone. Start your career and make the most of that. Then I turned back toward Mom and Dad. This isn't between Lauren and me. Mom's eyes filled with frustration. So you're abandoning your family over one graduation gift? No. I closed the folder. The gift showed me the rules. Mom stared at me. What rules? My money belongs to the family whenever you need it. But when I need help, your money belongs to whoever you decide deserves it more. Dad rubbed his forehead. This is ridiculous. How exactly are we supposed to manage the mortgage without those transfers? For years, a question like that would have made me immediately start calculating what I could sacrifice. A shift. An extra weekend. Another delay in paying my own debt. Not anymore. I looked at him. You'll figure it out. His expression hardened. I added quietly, that's what you always told me. No one had anything to say after that. And the consequences didn't disappear when the party ended. Without my monthly payments, Mom and Dad had to examine what they could actually afford. They cut discretionary spending, gave up several expensive habits, and eventually restructured the mortgage. They weren't ruined. They simply had to start carrying expenses they had quietly expected me to carry forever. The family reaction changed too. The relatives who had spent Lauren's party congratulating my parents for their generosity learned that I had been sending them $1,800 every month while carrying 6 figures of medical school debt myself. The applause stopped. Lauren's relationship with them became strained for a while. Not because they paid her loans, but because she realized they had kept each of us in separate versions of the same family. They told her she needed protecting. They told me I needed nothing. and neither of us had been encouraged to compare notes. A month later, I moved. My signing bonus didn't go toward a new car or an expensive apartment. Most of it went toward my loans and emergency savings. The $1,800 that had once disappeared from my account every month went toward my own financial future instead. Mom asked more than once whether I could restart the payments temporarily. My answer remained no. Dad eventually stopped asking. Lauren and I took longer to repair things. But once we stopped viewing each other through our parents' comparisons, something changed. She could admit that she had been favored without believing that meant I hated her. And I could acknowledge that she benefited from our parents' choices without blaming her for making them. Years passed. My medical school balance kept falling until eventually there was nothing left to pay. I remained civil with Mom and Dad. I visited. I called. I showed up when I genuinely wanted to. But they never again had automatic access to my bank account, disguised as family responsibility. They had once believed the dependable daughter would always absorb whatever burden they handed her. Instead, they learned that independence works both ways. If I was independent enough to handle $181,000 of student debt alone, then they were independent enough to handle their own mortgage. Lauren received the debt-free celebration. I received something different. A boundary. A career I had chosen for myself. And control over money I had spent years earning. I never received the debt-free graduation gift my sister did, but I finally stopped paying for the privilege of being treated like the daughter who needed nothing.